Welcome to this case study. In this case study, we'll show you how Designby Si grew revenue 75% and lifted EBITDA 28% in just 7 months. We'll also show you how we gained market share and gained around 60,000 brand searches a month on international markets and 10,000 in the Danish market as well as gaining followers on Instagram and TikTok. So let's just jump straight into the introduction. This case study is relevant for you who is a founder, a CMO, or a CFO. Your monthly revenue is around 7 figures in euros. You already have the leadership team in place. You want to grow, but maybe can't figure out which strings to pull to do so. You have control of your internal systems, marketing team, etc., but maybe don't feel like you're getting the most out of it. And so why listen to FABO? Well, first of all, FABO is a condensed team of e-commerce marketers that work within 2 specific industries. That is the lifestyle industry, so with fashion, interior, jewelry, watches, beauty and cosmetics, and with retailers that sell homogeneous products. 2 out of top 5 nominated to best e-commerce case under 100 million Danish crowns in 2024 are customers of FABO. And FABO is also the only platinum partner with Triple Whale. We're also the only and first TikTok marketing partner here in Denmark. And this also means that we have close relations with, for example, TikTok, that have made an official case study about FABO and our framework with our clients, and also invited us to speak around this framework at the Danish e-commerce summit, the biggest one. And so this is FABO's framework. It revolves around 3 main pillars, that is acquisition, retention, and consulting. Our focus in acquisition is new customers. We help people with distribution, so that's paid social, paid search, and influencer marketing. And of course, we also want our clients' customers to repurchase. And so we also have a retention department which focuses on returning customers, and we help people with email and retention and also lead acquisition. And the last is consulting. This is more broad, but what we help people with is identify low-hanging fruits and decrease risk in the business. Some of the things that we could help with is project and budget management. So that could be reviewing P&Ls, setting the right KPIs to scale off, doing product analysis, doing consulting on your team, so you can figure out what is the problem, how do we solve it, and who needs to solve it. And so basically what we help our clients with is cut new customer acquisition costs, make people buy more, and reduce risk in the business, making their business enterprise valued. And so as you can hear, we are not the traditional agency where you just get a paid search and a paid social consultant on your business who just set up your ads. We have a more holistic framework where we proactively budget manage based off the KPIs we set with you and your profit loss forecast. We do consulting on your full e-commerce structure, connect that to profit and your goals, and also guide you on operations and build your team so we have a plan for what needs to be done, how we can do it, and who needs to do it. And so that's the framework, but what results is that actually creating for our clients other than just Designby Si. Conte grew yearly revenue by 2,579% since we started the collaboration. Brink went from a net loss in 23 to a positive net profit in 24. Globe Studios increased their revenue by 72% and their net profit by 21% versus the previous period. Kasparta, we scaled their revenue by 230%, scaled ad spend 300%, and net profit 150%. Zoo Club, we helped scale from 1 to 4 stores and scaled their revenue by 540%, now on track to open further stores and also scale internationally. And this is just a snippet of the brands that we work with. We work with the majority of the fastest growing lifestyle and retail brands. Some of them you might recognize and you can see them here. The key constraint that this case study revolves around is that Designby Si had built a strong organic demand but lacked the KPIs and the structure to scale with confidence. Without clear attribution and benchmarks, it was unclear whether the growth came from new or existing customers, limiting both spend and incremental gains. By defining KPIs, improving attribution, reallocating spend to upper funnel content that they actually already had produced through their organic SoMe and creators, as well as strengthening their retention strategy, we scaled new customer acquisition costs profitably and lifted spend by 234%, revenue 75%, and EBITDA 28%. So what we'll go through today is the theory behind our framework, so you'll learn the marketing psychology to become top of mind and remembered by in-market prospects. You'll learn how to acquire more customers by doing budget management properly. You'll learn how to do that at a cheaper price and in less time with our paid social and paid search framework. And you'll also learn how you can make them buy again and again with our retention framework and lead acquisition framework. And so let's start off with the theory. None of our clients build a sustainable brand and scale based off the newest shiny object or micro adjustments in the Ads Manager. They succeed because we help them understand the fundamental of what makes a brand easy to remember and buy. So our framework is not based on a gut feeling, but on insights from the world's most renowned marketing researchers that we've translated into practical tools and framework that we apply daily across our clients. Those marketing researchers are Byron Sharp, who wrote How Brands Grow, Liz Binnett and Peter Fields, who wrote The Long and the Short of It, Eugene Schwartz, who wrote Breakthrough Advertising, and of course Alex Hormozi, who is the author of the $100 Million Trilogy. And actually also me and my co-founder Christian attended a workshop with the acquisition team back in March, and we also have some frameworks from that we'll share with you today that we also used on Designby Si. But first, before we go into the key snippets of theory that is relevant from these theories to this case study, what is a brand? A brand is simply a network of associations in people's memory, and the stronger and broader those associations, the more likely your brand is to be chosen when a customer is in market. Because the most important search engine is not the one on Google, it's the one in your mind. And so when you have a problem, the first product you think of is probably the one they're going to buy. So let's dive into the key snippets of theory relevant to this case study from these marketing researchers. The first bit of theory from How Brands Grow is around how you can become mental available in people's head and also be physical available when they are ready to buy. Mental availability is around being easy to remember. This is built through brand, distinctive brand assets, and reach as well. Physical availability is all around when you are in market, ready to buy something, and this is driven by distribution, performance marketing, and strong offers as well. And so how do we become both mental available and also physical available? One of the things that How Brands Grow states is the theory called double jeopardy. The definition of double jeopardy is that smaller brands don't just have fewer buyers, they also face lower loyalty. This is because that brand size is linked to both penetration, so how many people buy your brand, and frequency, how often they buy your brand. The effects of this is that big brands win twice, they have more buyers, they have more loyal customers as well, and small brands lose twice, and so they have fewer buyers and less loyalty because they are harder to remember. The takeaway from this is that growth comes from increasing focus on penetration and light buyers, so get more people to buy your brand at least once, and not just chase loyalty alone and allocate budget where ROAS is highest, because that is maybe oftentimes repeating customers. This is a bit of theory from The Long and Short of It by Liz Binnett and Peter Fields that states the optimal budget allocation. This varies from brand to brand, but this is the optimal range that you want to aim for. And so if you want to build mental availability, but still want to capture all the in-market demand that you have created, you should allocate it around 60% to branded efforts and 40% to performance marketing efforts. The reason being is that at any given time, 95% of the market is not in market looking for a product right now, and 5% of people are in market looking for a product or a solution to their problem right now. And so what we want to do as a learning from this is to think, how can we create as a cost-effective funnel as possible so that we don't have to get a broad reach only from paid CPMs, but can also get that from organic team, creators, etc. Something that Designby Si was really good at, but again, they didn't have the right KPIs, so they couldn't scale. What we often see is that people allocate the majority of their ad spend towards short-term sales activations because this is where the highest ROAS is in platform. But what then happens is that every time they scale ad spend, the frequency goes up, and they can't scale it past the point where it don't hurt profits. What then happens is that you enter what we call the doom loop, and this is something that every CMO needs to be aware of, where you shift the budget to performance formats, short-term sales activations, you see your advertising efforts plateau, and then you try to optimize against faulty metrics, but don't give it a long enough timeline and a reasonable effort in order to see the effect. And so you go back to performance formats again. And then this is kind of the doom loop where you can scale past a certain point. Adidas is a good example of this. They reached a top where they had a positive tendency and decided to step away from more of their branded activities. And so they allocated their budget like this. So 77% towards performance marketing efforts and 23% toward branded efforts. What we then saw with their branded searches is that they went straight down. And when they started to focus on brand building activities again, of course, still with budget allocated towards performance marketing, the performance went up or the brand searches went up. And so what happens when you co-invest in branding at the same time as you have short-term sales activations is that you grow the baseline, and of course the short-term sales activations rise with it. And so you shouldn't look at it in two silos, but they play together and compound each other. And so now we know how our budget should be allocated and what's important in our marketing strategy. But how can we also make sure that our communication resonates with our market and with people who are unaware with our brand? The first model of breakthrough advertising is around how sophisticated your market is. For Designby Si, the market is very sophisticated. People have spent a lot of time in this market buying clothes, had a lot of buying experiences from other brands as well, and so they have become more skeptical towards practical features on the product and want the lifestyle instead. And so defining how sophisticated your market is also helps you know which USPs to use in your marketing. For instance, for any lifestyle brand, you shouldn't communicate practical USPs, like for example what the clothes is made of, because every customer has heard that 1,000 times over and it doesn't really have any effect anymore. It's more about the lifestyle. But then you'll also need to know how you should communicate to people who are in market. This is the 5% of the market, and also people who are not in market. Most brands, here Designby Si as an exception, only know how to communicate to people who are in market, and this is what limits their growth. But actually, Designby Si, who were very good organically, knew how to make content to people who were not in market, but just didn't prioritize spend towards it. I can talk for hours about this, but I'll show you practical examples later in our social presentation. Understanding these principles does so that our clients can scale while remaining impossible to copy, because competitors don't truly understand why we're doing what we're doing or what we're doing right. And so if they want to copy, they'll do so in the dark, because we have had many of our brands being copied without the competitors gaining any market share, because they only copy the end product but don't understand all the thought processes behind our decisions. And so with that being said, let's move on to one of the key constraints in Designby Si's business, which was KPI and budget management. The first thing we looked at on Designby Si was to, with math, find their key constraints and scaling opportunities, the low-hanging fruits. We did that by using our business scorecard. This is something that was handed to us by Alex and Hormozi on our acquisition workshop back in March 25, and it looked like this. And so the baseline value is what makes a business interesting. This is your revenue and your EBITDA. Then you have your value adders. This is what makes the business healthy. And then you have your value subtractors. So this is basically risk and what makes a business sellable. And so the smaller your business are, the further up you should focus, and the larger and more mature your business is, the further down you should focus by reducing risk. For Designby Si, we found 3 key constraints in their business that was also a low-hanging fruit to scale their company. The first one was that they spent too little compared to our optimal target. The second one was that they had low annual revenue retention, so they had a retention problem. And the third was data risk, because they used in-platform attribution to allocate their budgets. So let's dive into the first constraint. They didn't spend enough on acquiring new customers, and simply they hadn't hit diminishing returns yet. Their LTV to CAC ratio was 6.2 on the first purchase, which means that every time I pour €1 into my marketing, I get 6.2 out. And over a 12-month period, I get 9.4 euros out. This is too high compared to our targets and tells us that they haven't hit diminishing returns yet. The second constraint is revenue retention. So people weren't buying frequently enough compared to how many drops we have. We have weekly drops of new clothes. Our target here is 80%, and before we came in, it was 33%. Revenue retention is calculated by taking revenue from all customers in a start month, so that could be January 24, and seeing how much these same customers generated in revenue over the next 12 months. And so if I've bought, for example, for €1,000, and I have a revenue retention of 33%, like they did in the previous period, then I will, in the next 12 months, buy for €330. Just to tease the retention part of this case study, the revenue retention is 77% over a 7-month period. And so the lesser time we have, the lesser time the customers also have to do a repeat purchase. But doubling this in a shorter amount of time is insane. And so you have something to look forward to. The third constraint was data risk. And so they were using in-platform attribution. And we know, for example, with medias like paid search, they tend to over-attribute themselves because they function in the lower funnel. Whereas medias like, for example, paid social, or streaming video, or digital video, or TV, or whatever, oftentimes also have a double effect. So they both capture demand in market and also build brand for customers who are not in market yet. To get a transparent overview of where we actually bought new customers and not just bought repeat customers, we implemented Triple Whale. Triple Whale functions with using UTM, so we can see along the customer journey where people click first, and also a post-purchase survey, so we ask people with first-party data and zero-party data with the post-purchase survey, where did you discover us? And we frame this in a way so that we can get more attributed to the channels that actually generate new customers and make people discover us. To compare the two, in-platform is built to answer what ad in this platform should we scale, whereas Triple Whale is meant to answer which combination of channels actually generated the most store revenue and is most incremental to our business. In-platform only uses platform pixels and KPI, and often includes view-through rate, which makes it over-attribute itself, whereas Triple Whale use first-party click data, Triple Pixel does that, and post-purchase survey to have the zero-party data from the customers. The incrementality of in-platform is often over-attributed, whereas Triple Whale have a multi-touch platform and is much more incremental if we ask the question in the post-purchase survey the right way. For example, how did you discover us in the first place? For executives, for the CFO, that are going to look at reports and figure out where should we allocate our budgets. If you look at in-platform data, you'll see siloed data that don't reconcile with your MEA and your profit loss. Whereas Triple Whale, they base their attribution based off your store revenue instead of only in-platform. For example, if you put together the Google Ads, Meta, TikTok revenue, you'll have a higher number than what you actually have backend, and you won't have that in Triple Whale. The pitfalls is with in-platform that it over-attributes, whereas with Triple Whale, you'll still need to see it as a model assumption, but don't treat it as a ground truth. So you should still use and validate with finance and MEA. So let's actually compare the two. If we look at this first slide, you'll see that the in-platform ROAS is highlighted. You can see TikTok is at 4.8, Meta is at 7, and Google Ads is at 43. If you look at the total impact attribution model, you can see that ROAS is now at 5.2 with TikTok. This is very good because we know that TikTok is usually an upper funnel discovery platform. Meta went from 7 to 4, and Google went from 44 to 11. The reason we haven't scaled Google is because brand is also included here. What is also nice here is that you can see NC ROAS because Triple Whale is attached to your store, and so we can see how many new customers are these channels actually driving. The next thing that was crucial for this case growth was making P&L targets and KPIs with diminishing returns in mind. So let's start off with the metrics and the KPIs. The first thing we'll look at is the P&L. Are we hitting P&L forecast, and is EBITDA actually developing positive? We make the forecast with the client, but we'd like them to send over the actual results. Then the next would be efficiency. We usually use a metric called MEA, of course, but also gross profit to CAC. Gross profit is revenue ex VAT minus COGS minus fulfillment, so how much you earn when the product is sent out the door, over how much you spend on getting a customer. And so our target here is first order gross profit to CAC is 2 to 1. So every time we use €1, we get €2 out on the first order. And within 12 months, we should have €4.5 out of the customer in Denmark and free to run a ratio internationally. Another thing that is crucial for lifestyle brand, and especially for Designby Si, is which products are trending. So this is also something that we'll go through. And then obviously, this is something that Fie will go through, but then there is the retention part, how much is Klaviyo contributing to the revenue. The result of setting KPIs and doing this P&L is that we scale spend by 234% versus last year. Our net profit is up 28% versus last year, and our MEA is 9 instead of 5. And usually you would say, well, are you not less efficient with 9% MEA? Well, yes, we are, but the volume of sales is so much higher, and obviously the most important metric is also higher net profit. Another crucial thing for lifestyle brands, but especially for Designby Si, who drops new clothes every Thursday, is monitoring product performance. And we split this up into 3 buckets. We have the bestselling, the rising stars, so this is upcoming products, and also declining products. In this case, and this is something you'll see during the social presentation, we have campaigns that focus spend toward our best sellers because they generate such a huge part of our revenue. And so for the best-selling products, the requirement here is that it's in full stock, and of course that it's a top 20 best-selling product. We rank this based off what sells the most within this category, and it's growth versus previous period. The action from this is to keep focus and spend, plus measure return on investment from how much spent a specific product got versus how it developed in sales. The rising stars is more of a testing phase, so the requirements here in order to be within this category is that you need to sell plus 100 units a month, have full stock, and the ranking here is based off the highest percentage of growth. And of course, this is again versus previous period. Action from this, give creators with these products and also try to test product-specific ad sets based off most exciting rising stars, as we call it. And then last but not least, we have declining products. And so the requirement here is that the previous month it needs to at least sell 100 units. And the ranking here is the highest percentage decline in sales of the product. And so the action from this is to turn off previous items that maybe we even had dedicated ad sets to on socials, so we're not wasting money because it's declining, and phase out declining products that are in stock. If of course they are out of stock, they're not qualified to be in this bucket because then of course sales will decline. If we move on to the soft metrics, this is organic follower growth, organic views, share of search, increased number of wishes, and incremental reach, both organic and paid. If we start off by looking at share of search, this is also based off a study by Liz Binnett and James Hawkins that established a study that showed this was very close correlated with actual market share. The graph you can see here is from car sales, where you can see that the correlation is pretty high from share of search and actual market share. So let's look at Designby Si's brand search numbers. First we'll look at the Danish and then we'll look at the international. As you can see here, on the Danish market, we gained 10K brand searches a month. We went from 42K to 52K, and thereby gained 5% market share among some of our closest competitors. And on the international market, we went from 81K on average in brand searches in 24 to 140K brand searches here in 25. That's a rise of 60K brand searches in 7 months. That's absolutely insane. And so we gained 6% market share among some of our closest competitors on these markets. And so now we know what KPIs to scale off. The next thing we'll go through is how we can make our marketing funnel more efficient. As a lifestyle brand, we can't only be dependent on paid traffic to scale our brand. We need to make our marketing funnel more cost efficient, and that's why we'll talk about why organic, social, and creators is a must if you want to scale as a lifestyle brand. We've made some correlation analysis, a Pearson correlation analysis on how close correlated organic views is with conversion value and also with spend. And so you can see it's pretty close correlated with conversion value, a little less correlated with spend, but that's mostly due to that sometimes we have viral posts from, for example, memes that doesn't necessarily make people buy from one day to the other. But then again, it's something that fills into the funnel, make people aware of our brand. What you can see here, and the takeaway from this, is that these are very close correlated to how much we can spend and also how much we actually generate in conversion backend. This case study is only possible because Designby Si's SoMe team and understanding of content is so good. On average, they have around 3 million in monthly organic reach. So let's have a look at what kind of value that brings to our funnel, to the paid funnel. To figure out how much that would otherwise have cost in paid ads, the calculation looked like this. So unique CPM x organic reach divided by 1,000. The average unique CPM for Designby Si is 44 euros. If we time that by 3 million divided by 1,000, we can see that the value their organic efforts brings to our paid funnel is 132,000 euros, which leads us on to our social part of the presentation. And so what you learn in this part of the presentation is how you can cut acquisition cost even when scaling ad spend, as we've just been through. You learn how to scale paid social as a fashion brand with frequent drops, build the funnel, and set the right KPIs. But first, what separates a good from a bad paid social specialist? A bad paid social specialist has no business view, so they ignore the profit loss, the margins, and the full funnel. It's a specialist who chases ROAS only, and so they allocate the majority of their spend toward low funnel ad formats and fails to understand the sophistication of the market and awareness stages, so all the creative stuff within paid social. It's also specialists that have no funnel context, and so they fail to see how paid social ties into the whole funnel, organic, creators, email marketing, etc. On the other hand, a great social specialist is business-minded, connects profit loss statements, margins, and the full funnel impact, has a balanced budget allocation so they drive both awareness and conversions, not only ROAS, and has a full funnel perspective, so understand how paid social compounds organic, creators, and brand building, and the other way around. And so let's have a look at some of the results that a great paid social specialist can drive. For Designby Si, we scale ad spend both versus previous year and previous period. We also scale revenue in platform and cut CPA on Meta. And we did the same with TikTok. We scale spend versus last year and last period. We scale revenue and cut CPA versus last year. The key constraint that Designby Si was facing within paid social, and that we'll solve today, is that over 60% of spend went to low funnel formats, dynamic product ads, leaving less space for creator-driven content high up in the funnel. By implementing Triple Whale and focusing on new customers, shifting budgets within the creative formats, and focusing on leads, we cut NC-CAC, we gathered more leads, and improved performance. And so the first thing we'll go through in this presentation is which key metrics you need to track in order to scale your paid social ad account. Paid social is one of the most incremental channels for Designby Si and any other lifestyle brand, if used right. But to use it right, you need to understand what KPIs to measure on, what content formats resonate with people based off how aware they are of your brand and your market, and also what impact that has. And so if we start in the top of the funnel to people who are unaware of your brand, what we measure on here is incremental reach, so people who don't know our brand, we want them to engage with us and fall in love with our brand. The typical content formats here would be lifestyle videos, how to be X person, skits, and what we do typically in the unaware audience is just take best performing organic content and use that in paid ads because it's already been validated that people engage and like this kind of content. The impact here is that we want discovery, and our content needs to replicate what our ICP wants to become. Then it would move down to the middle of the funnel, become problem and solution aware. And what we optimize towards here is followers and leads. And so the creative formats here would be invitation to follow, coming soon, giveaway, and create a lifestyle. And so the impact here is that if we were to pay for our potential clients to see us every time, then it would be very expensive to acquire new customers. And so what we want to do here is put a lot of budget into acquiring new followers and new leads, so we can exposure them 10 times more than what we would have if we only were to do it with paid ad spend, and thereby lower our NC-CAC. And then it would move down to the bottom of the funnel, become product and most aware, and this is where we measure on the hard KPIs, so that's NC-CAC, NC-ROAS. The content formats are more product focused, so that's creator try-ons, product focus, restock, dynamic product ads. And the impact here, of course, would be purchases. You'll see all of these creative formats put into action when we'll move into the creative funnel later on for Designby Si. And then last but not least, of course, we have retention, where we measure on yearly revenue retention that we've already been through in KPI and budget management. This happens through our organic social and our email list. And so let's have a look at how we've developed within these KPIs: incremental reach, followers, leads, NC-ROAS, and NC-CAC. If we start off by looking at incremental reach, you can see that we've scaled spend by almost 400%. We've gained over 200% extra in cumulative monthly reach. We have over 150% extra incremental reach. And even though we've scaled ad spend so aggressively, our cost per incremental reach went from 0.02 to 0.04. If we look at followers, you can see here the development between non-attributed followers to paid ads and followers that actually was attributed to paid ads. The followers that are attributed to paid ads is the red, and the non-attributed is the one that is more dark. And so what you can see here is that we gain approximately 15,000 followers every single month here in 2025. If we compare that to the previous period and the previous year, you can see that in the previous period we gained 58,000. In our period we gained almost 75,000, and last year we gained 37,000. And if we look at leads, we can see the development here in attributed leads to paid ads and non-attributed leads. As you can see here, when we started the lead strategy, we gained over 35,000 leads in the first months compared to the previous period where there barely was any lead acquisition at all. And then afterwards, we've gained approximately 25,000 leads every single month, a lot of them coming from paid ads. In Denmark, we've grown the list from 36,000 leads to almost 58,000 leads. And internationally, we've grown the list from 87,000 leads to now over 150,000 leads. And last but not least, this is not development, this is just to show you what kind of metrics we measure on. You can see here that the view in TripWell shows us that we can optimize towards ROAS, in-platform ROAS, or NC ROAS. And this is of course something we implemented and optimized towards, as also mentioned in the KPI and budget management. Now we've been over the KPIs you need to look after in order to scale your paid social ad account. Now let's talk about how you can actually build a paid social funnel as a fashion brand with weekly drops. And the first thing we'll go through is the campaign structure, and then we'll go through the creative strategy. If we look into the campaign structure before, you can see that there are 3 Advantage Plus, 2 of them containing dynamic product ads. We have 1 that is boosting Instagram posts organically. We have 1 campaign that is dedicated to dynamic product ads. And then lastly, we have an Advantage Plus campaign that is scaling standard picture and video ads. But this is not the main issue. The main issue is that spend for everything that was not dynamic product ads had a share of spend under 40%. Dynamic product ads had 65% of their spend on Meta. And so if we take a look at our ad account structure now, we have 1 Advantage Plus that is a prospecting campaign using best performing organic posts. We have 1 dynamic product ad. We have 1 lead ad that is pushing for first day drops and monthly giveaways, so it's also really qualified leads that we're getting here. We have 1 that is pushing for Instagram followers, and then we have 1 that is using post ID. And what we also added, other than the lead campaign, is actually campaigns that push specific spend towards, first of all, products, so they're best-selling products, as we talked about in KPI and budget management, as well as campaigns that push for specific countries. And now the share of spend looks like this. 73% goes to image and video ads, that is more upper funnel, and 27% goes to our dynamic product ads. Our testing framework looks like this. And so when an organic post goes viral, we know that people want to engage with it, we know that they resonate with the creatives, and so we just put that into paid ads. And so now we've been through the campaign structure, how we should allocate our budgets. So let's dive into the most crucial part of paid social, that is understanding the creative strategy. What we'll go through here is how we got more out of their already very efficient team with content at Designby Si. And to do that, we'll need to circle back to the different awareness stages that we already talked about in the theory. We've already settled that Designby Si's market sophistication within clothes is very sophisticated. And so what we need to figure out now is how we can communicate to people who are unaware, people who maybe don't know yet that they want to look better, people who are problem aware that know they want to look better but don't know how yet, people who are solution aware that knows different solutions to look better but maybe don't know which one is the easiest, and to people who are in market, people who are product aware, know they want a certain style, and people who are most aware that know they want a specific product but maybe don't know if they are going to buy from Designby Si or some of their competitors. The main thing with creative strategy is that you want to have the 95% of the market that are not in market right now to remember you when they come in market. And to do so, you need the right creative strategy. And so let's dive into that. When we first audited Designby Si's funnel, it looks like this. At least that was what the majority of the budget went to. And so we have dynamic product ads. We have ads that is within a specific category. So do you want the perfect suit pants or the perfect bag? We have review creator ads and how it fits. And so to make this funnel better, we implemented one of the frameworks we got from Alex Hormozi back when we attended his workshop March 2025. This framework is more, better, new. And what it revolves around is basically to do more of what already works. This is the first thing you want to do better, and then do new. For Designby Si, this meant increasing the volume of current high-performing activities, so that's more creators and more content from the shoots they were already on. And they need to do this as the first step, because you can always do more for what's already working. Then we needed to do better, so we needed to improve the quality and efficiency of our existing processes to get more result for the same effort. And the way we do this is, for example, on TikTok, they were using Spark ads from a creator, but the sender was actually their own company profile. We shifted this from being a company profile to a creator profile. And this is instantly what got the most spend in TikTok. This step comes after exhausting the do more stage, and especially when the cost of acquiring new customers gets too high. And then lastly, we have the do new. And so this means basically acquiring totally new systems into their business. And so the way we applied this was with lead campaigns, with country campaigns, with product-specific campaigns together with the client strategist, and also branded activations that we're working on right now. This is the last resort, and only when we are finished with doing more of what already works and doing better at what we already do. And so this is the funnel now. We have more video and picture formats, as you can see here, but let's run through them chronically. And so in the top of the funnel, we have a lifestyle creative, we have how to become ex-girl, a skit, and also trend videos. And these trend videos is actually a bit product focused, but because it's a trend, it can reach a lot of people and thereby actually also be more top of funnel and reach people who are unaware. But let's start off with seeing the first lifestyle video. So a lifestyle video that was used both organically and in paid ads. This is a good example of something that worked well organic that we used in paid. This could also be an example, kind of a mood board. This got posted, I think, in April, so 2 months after we started the collaboration, but a carousel on how to become a cool girl and where we plot our bestseller products in. This is also something, as you can see on the engagement rate, that worked very well organic and also in paid ads. And then we have the skits, when you and your colleague comes to work wearing the same outfits.
Regina, please! Regina, stop! Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me.
And then last but not least, we have the trends where people clap each other's hands. Moving on to the middle of the funnel, you'll see some of the concepts that I introduced earlier when looking at the KPIs. Invitation to follow, coming soon, giveaway, create a haul, and also just an influencer lifestyle video. If we start off with the invitation to follow, this is a lifestyle video, but just with a hard call to action of join our community into the Instagram. Only used in paid. And then we have here a coming soon ad for an upcoming collection. And of course, a hard call to action into the website where FABO has made a custom webhook that made it possible for us to measure the actual value of our leads. And this is the site that you can see here. Then we also have the giveaway. This is also only in paid ads. This is just leads to an instant form. And then of course, using smart ads from the creator's profile instead of the company's profile. What we did was have the creator post it instead of posting it from Designby Si, and it instantly performed better and got the most spent in TikTok because it's more trustworthy. And so let's have a look at some of the creator creatives.
Take a chance, roll the dice. Money can't buy your love cause it's overpriced. Don't overthink, just hope it's right. I'm only here for the night. Hey, we got a good thing. Don't know if I'ma see you again.
That's the haul. Let's move on to the lifestyle video.
Who's to say what's impossible will they forget? This world keeps spinning and with each new day I can feel a change.
And it's funny because the haul is of course more product focused, but what is also random sometimes, especially with lifestyle brands, is that it's the small details that matter. The environment, the persona, what's the persona doing, what's the confidence in the video. That's the things that makes a creative actually perform, because this creative is not product focused at all. It's just someone looking good in Designby Si clothes. And that can make a creative perform alone, because people want to be like her. Moving down to the bottom of the funnel, now it becomes more product focused to people who are product aware and most aware. We have a video with a product split on one of our dresses. Let's try to see that. Then we have a picture split, again with one of our products. This is just to showcase our product in different scenarios and different persons. And then we have an ad with a hard call to action to discover our new collection. Maybe people have seen a lead ad, maybe people have seen some coming soon ads, but decided not to buy yet. And then this ad is designed to convert them. Also, this is a restock ad, so thereby it is also something that resonates with people who are very aware that they want this kind of product. But this is actually also something that performs well organically, that we then use in paid ads. And then of course we have our dynamic product ads. Dynamic product ads can also work to people who are solution aware and know they want a better style but don't know where to look yet to inspire people. So what were the results after optimizing for these KPIs? Incremental reach, followers, leads, and NC ROAS. We scaled spend on Meta by 350%. We scaled spend on TikTok by 100%. We got more incremental reach on both platforms. We got more in-platform revenue as well. And we got a shit ton of leads attributed to social. But social is just one part of the acquisition strategy. And that's why we'll move on to paid search now. Within paid search, you learn how a monobrand can scale profitably using Google Ads while using search and buying insights to make better strategic decisions. But before we dive into that, what separates a good from a bad paid search specialist? A bad paid search specialist, the silo Google Ads specialist, is one who focuses within the platform and doesn't have the overall understanding of which place does Google play in the marketing funnel for a lifestyle brand, and just focuses on getting the highest ROAS, and maybe they haven't even separated brand from non-brand in the ads manager. If we took a look at the good Google Ads specialist, the T-shaped specialist, they have understanding of the marketing funnel, so which place does Google Ads play in, for example, Designby Si or any other lifestyle brand. It's mostly demand capture. They can also use search insights to provide strategic insights on search behavior for specific product categories to make better inventory planning, and have an understanding of splitting up non-brand versus brand campaigns as well. It's also a specialist that keeps the account consolidated, and so they don't use time over-engineering the account trying to be better than Google Ads' smart bidding algorithm. As just mentioned before, it's a specialist that knows how to separate branded keywords from generic keywords. A rule of thumb in FABO is that we should allocate 80 to 85% of our spend to non-branded keywords so we can gain incremental purchase from this platform as well. What we see though from almost every Google Ads account that we audit is that people think they have campaigns that target generic keywords, but because they haven't got the tools or the skills to fully exclude branded keywords from all of their PMX campaigns, for example, we often see that they end up using the majority of their spend on branded keywords. And this is something that a good T-shaped specialist knows how to separate. If we take a look at the Designby Si branded keywords cost per acquisition development, you can see the development from January and until we started. So in October it was 12 euro, and when we started it was 1.85 euros, and all the way down to below 1 euro each month that we had the collaboration. And bear in mind that we've scaled the spend in this period also on branded keywords. And if we take a more holistic view, so we can see the ad spend development on brand versus non-branded keywords, we can see the revenue development on non-brand versus branded keywords, as well as the ROAS development on brand versus non-branded keywords. We can see that we have scaled ad spend on non-brand keywords a lot. The ad spend on the branded keywords is approximately the same. It has been scaled, but not by a lot. But as you can see on the graph just below, the revenue has scaled substantially on both non-brand and branded keywords, as well as ROAS. The key constraint that this case in search evolves around is that the previous setup was too granular, wasting time on micro adjustments and manual optimizations that try to outsmart smart bidding algorithm instead of leveraging it and using profit metrics to build a scalable, efficient account structure. By implementing an effective setup, we freed time to focus on strategic initiatives with real growth impact, such as identifying search trends by category and driving incremental sales from non-branded keywords to convert total traffic and reach new customers unfamiliar to the brand, just as you just saw before with the graph. And so the first thing we'll go through is attribution and KPIs. So which key metrics do you need to track in order to scale your ad account and not use all your ad spend on branded keywords that would have converted anyways? Google Ads is not as incremental as social, especially for monobrand. When people search, they know they have a problem. They know they want to buy something. And so we start with problem aware and move our way down. And so on the middle of the funnel, when people know they have a problem, but maybe don't know which products to purchase yet, we track spend, of course, with brand versus non-brand, cost per click, cost per view on YouTube, and also first click attribution in Triple to see if we're getting conversions on non-brand that convert from the first click attribution, and then we know we're doing something right with our non-brand strategy. The content format here is search, shopping, YouTube, and what this impact has is that it's omnichannel. It fills the funnel with new customers unfamiliar to the brand, but this doesn't have that big of a share of spend. It's around 20%, at least it was or is for Designby Si. In the bottom of the funnel, when people know they want specific products, again, we measure on brand versus non-brand, and then we look at harder KPIs, so that's NC-CAC and NC-ROAS. The content formats here is shopping and search, and the impact is demand capture and, of course, people purchasing our products. This is where the majority of the ad spend is used. The second thing we'll look at is how to actually optimize Google Ads for maximum profit. Now we know which key metrics to track in order to scale our ad account, but now we also need to know how to actually scale the ad account within Google Ads. When looking at Google Ads, we have split up into three. We have the fundamentals, so that's tracking and attribution, the account structure, then we have the data, so that's performance max insights, making sure that we are not using spend on generic campaigns, on branded keywords, our bidding strategy, and then we have the copy, which is ads and keywords. If we look into tracking as the first thing, Designby Si was using tracking through Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, so client-side tracking, and we estimate that people lose around 20 to 30% of their data here. We implemented Profimetrics as a server-side tracking tool, and so now they have 100% tracking. If we look at their past campaign setup, you can see that they have a lot of shopping campaigns and search campaigns, which is nothing wrong with. But they're also using manual CPC, which is often a sign that you're trying to engineer your way out of the Google Ads account structure instead of leveraging smart bidding algorithm in Google Ads. Introducing our new campaign structure, we implemented Profimetrics. Profimetrics has 4 buckets, so that's highly profitable, profitable, unprofitable, and low traffic as well. We usually allocate our budget like this, so it's 60% of our ad spend to the highly profitable campaign. This is products that have a POAS above 1.5 and more than 3 conversions. 20% of our ad spend towards the profitable campaign. So this is a campaign that has a POAS above 1.5 but less than 3 conversions. 5% of our ad spend to unprofitable products. This is products that have a POAS than less than 1 and more than 3 conversions. And 50% of our traffic to low traffic products, and this is products that have less than 25 clicks. If we take a look at the current setup, we've split that into non-brand campaigns and brand campaigns. If we start off with the non-brand campaigns, we have a PMax and a search ad campaign. The PMax is using target POAS as a bidding strategy instead of manual CPC. We've scaled ad spend significantly while also having a higher ROAS, and the same is accountable for search ads. Of course, we still have the brand campaigns because we still want to own our brand, but we just don't want to pay much for it. We have maintained around the same ad spend. We have scaled it a little bit because we also have more demand, and we need to have an impression share of 95%. But we've shifted the bidding strategy from manual CPC to an impression share target of 95%, which have lowered CPC and increased ROAS. Another crucial thing when optimizing your Google Ads is looking at your product feeds. And Designby Si had room for improvement here. What we see when people don't optimize their product feeds well enough is that Google don't have the necessary data to match your product to people's searches. And so you don't show up in a relevant search, even though you should have, because your product feed doesn't have the attributes that it needs to have. When we optimize our product feeds, we see an increase in ROAS, lower CPA, increase in conversion rate, and also increase in click-through rate as well. A good example of this could be to look at Designby Si's previous titles. They have brand, product name, color, and size. And so if you think about it, because Google reads our product titles just as a human would. And so if you think about it, putting the brand name as the first thing instantly makes this a most aware search that people that would have converted anyway. So people seeing this is most likely people that already search for Designby Si. Whereas if we look at the optimized title, which is ranked in title, color, size, generic keyword, and then brand, we reach out to a more unaware audience with non-branded keywords instead of putting brand first. Also, if you are a monobrand that doesn't sell products with GTIN numbers, it's crucial to feed Google with as much information as possible in your product feed for them to be able to match your products with people's searches. Another pro by using Data FeedWatch is that you become a CSS partner. Becoming a CSS partner means that you get up to 20% less CPC prices and also that you get better placements in your feed. Another initiative that we implemented for Designby Si that is a low-hanging fruit for a lot of Google Ads advertisers is product reviews. Product reviews instantly builds trust, it increases the CTR, and if you use it on your product page as well, it will also increase conversions on that. This is something that we've implemented with Clever reviews that she can also then use in her flows or in her campaigns. And so now we know which key metrics to look at in order to scale our ad account, but we also know how to build our ad account. But Google also provides a lot of data through Keyword Planner and Merchant Center as well that we can use to inventory forecast and that we can use to actually also see trends. Google still has 95% of all searches in the world, so it's a great platform to see how the buying behavior is developing in the market. One thing that is quite funny to see, especially among monobrands, is that there overall is a drop in generic keywords. The reason being is that many brands create so much demand on social and other platforms where people can fall in love with the lifestyle that they actually start searching for the brand more. But still, there are demand on these non-brand keywords that we can track, for example, with Keyword Planner, as we've done here. If you play around with this search data, you'll also be able to visualize it to see when each product category trends. And so when should you buy, for example, pants home, and when should you make content around, for example, pants. All of these initiatives has done so that we're able to scale spend, scale non-brand conversions with a higher ROAS, and with cheaper click prices, even though we scaled ad spend. And so now we've been through how we can cut new customer acquisition costs while scaling spend. And so now we'll dive into how we can make customers buy more in less time without necessarily having to use more on ad spend. What you'll learn now in collaboration with Fie is how Designby Si turned the limited email setup into a retention engine with plus 16 active flows, proactive lead gen, and tracking that boosted growth, LTV, and made us more confident when acquiring new leads through paid ads. But first, what separates a bad from a good retention specialist? A bad retention specialist is stuck on the wrong platform, relying on discounts to get sales, have minimal flows, poor tracking, zero lifecycle management, and the campaigns is not optimized for mobile as well. Whereas a great retention specialist builds on the right infrastructure, maps out the full customer journey with automated flows, integrates to all paid channels, turns organic social followers into email subscribers as well, and measures on KPI that both drive revenue and relationships.
And with great retention comes great results. So let's dive into the numbers. This year we sent more than 500,000 flow emails. And those flow emails have driven more than 700,000 euros in sales. For campaigns, we've sent more than 5 million emails. And those have almost driven 700,000 euros as well. The most important part of our work with Designby Si is how we've grown their list in the duration of this year. By 72% without decreasing engagement. Our retention rate, our open rate, and our CTR is also impressive. So let's have a look at the constraint that Designby Si was facing. Designby Si had strong demand and large organic audience, but their retention system couldn't effectively capture, nurture, or monetize it. Designby Si was on the wrong platform. With limited flows, poor integrations, no server-side tracking, and no lead acquisition strategy, we weren't able to scale the business further. So naturally, we migrated them into Klaviyo. Klaviyo is the right platform for data activation across e-commerce space. And in Klaviyo, we need to build structure. Because demand without structure is noise, and structure turns it into revenue. The structure we use on all our clients here at FABO is simple. We have one main list for compliance reasons, and then everything is built out of the data we have available on the profile level. Are you a customer? Are you not a customer? What are your interests? What have we asked you upon sign up? What is your gender? What is your location? Designby Si operates globally. And maybe we need this in our communication. For example, on deliveries. And the most important one of these is the engagement part. because this is what drives good retention. Are you engaging with the emails we're sending you? Are you opening? Are you clicking? Are you converting? What are you purchasing? From what collections? Do you prefer yellow styles? Do you prefer brown styles? All of this is a part of the segmentation framework we implement on all clients here at FABO. It's tested and tried, and it works really well for e-commerce. With this structure, we're able to build out a flow setup that can make a significant impact on your business. When we first started working with Designby Si, they had 3 flows: a welcome flow, a review flow, and a we missed you flow. And I don't know how much you know about email marketing, but that's not a whole lot. So obviously, one of the first things that I did after the migration was to build out a more fulfilling flow setup. We have onboarding in place, we have everything retargeting in place, and we have post-purchase activation in place as well. The green ones are the ones that we've already built and we're iterating on and we're testing on, and the yellow ones are the ones that are in pipeline. A flow is more than just a sequence of emails. A flow has impact, crucial touch points to the customer journey. And this example here is the added to cart flow. When someone adds to cart, they don't place an order and they don't start checkout. I do it myself all the time. I add stuff to the cart as a form of buying list, and then I don't do anything about it. But we can reactivate those leads. We can reactivate them with personalized, tailored messages aligned to where they are in their customer journey. And for Designby Si, the added to cart flow has made a significant impact. And to this day, it's the most important flow they have. It's driving more than 27% of their entire flow revenue of this year. So if you don't have an added to cart flow, I'd start building it. A flow is more than just a sequence of emails. The content matters. And when the content is personalized using data points in products that the subscriber has engaged with, you can make an impact. On this example, you see a product that someone has engaged with, and they're seeing all of the amazing content Designby Si has made for this product. It's designed to engage, to activate the customer, to remember why this product was amazing. Throughout this flow, on the left-hand side, you see almost 100% Django, meaning that everything is dynamic and personalized for the unique subscriber experience. In-mail personalization is one of the most important things on my day-to-day work. And you can play with it once you know how to use it. Here, for example, I've created a dynamic mood board with 100% personalized recommendations set up into the sphere of Designby Si's audience. I've also tested a little bit on it actually, but one of the things that is working really well is putting in the first name and then assigning the mood board to them, as is Nicoline's mood board or Victoria's mood board. This is one of the best performing mails in the flow. This is just one of many ways you can personalize email content. But the most important thing is that you think about it when you strategize and when you think about emails. How can I personalize the experience for the subscriber? The most important thing about flows is that they need subscribers. So we've been thinking outside the inbox when we've been capturing subscribers across different channels. We've engaged their social following through Gatsby, inviting them through Instagram. Commenting on an IG post turns into a DM directly inside of Instagram, which they then consent to email and they go straight into Klaviyo. We've had on-site pop-ups, enabling monthly giveaways, and getting new subscribers onboarded onto the Designby Si atmosphere. We've also had this amazing coming soon page. As my good colleague Frederick mentioned earlier, they drop every Thursday. So you can imagine that's a whole lot of emails and a whole lot of hype for all the new collections. But we display what's coming next and allow people to engage and become a super fan based off of that. And super fans we've created. The numbers speak for themselves. But what about these leads? How do we measure impact from paid channels, from on-site lead forms? How do we actually measure what our leads are worth? I've personally built this webhook and I'm quite proud of it, because it enables us to transfer data from event payload straight to the profile, so we can actually know how much revenue we get from one single lead ad. This knowledge is crucial for our paid social department, allowing them to understand what campaigns drive actual revenue and what campaigns drive superfans. And one of the other things we've been able to measure is the impact from server side. I implemented Sonar as one of the first things when we had our flows in place. And since then, Sonar has driven more than 78% more tracked events on the edited card. This has resulted in more than 100,000 euros in incremental revenue on top of the additional Klaviyo tracking. The last thing I want to tell you today is think less is more when you do email marketing. Everyone's busy. They don't want to be overrumbled by 1,000 messages, 1,000 images. Keep it simple. Less is more. And design is everything. Because in the end, email is a visual product. It's a tailored product to design behavior and to engage your own audience. And I'll challenge you. If you're working 100% image-based email designs, try switching it up. Try playing with your designs, because you can go from 0 to 100 in no time. It was clear that Designby Si's emails needed a little help. Their designs were not optimized for mobile. There was too much text, and the message was confusing. And when it comes to email design, less is more, and less is impactful. And from here on, I'll hand over the mic to my good colleague Frederick, who's going to give an introduction.
So with everything we've just been through, let's look at the impact. We set soft and hard KPIs, plus made a forecast and scaled spend by plus 230%. We doubled down on top funnel creative concepts that already worked organically and gained plus 160% in incremental reach. We introduced lead ads and prioritized more spend towards followers and double email subs and gained plus 100K Instagram followers. We introduced country-specific campaigns and product-specific campaigns on bestsellers and made inventory planning more predictable. This has resulted in more brand searches in both markets, more revenue, and more EBITDA. And so the next relevant question is if your company is going to be our next success story. If your company is around 7 figures a month and you're growing but maybe don't feel like you're getting the most out of it, then you could sign up on our website and see if you qualify for a full audit. We use plus 60 hours on these audits, so we're also very careful with who we do them for. Or else you could explore the other cases on our site and learn how to do this yourself. Thanks for watching.